Every weekend, journalism students from the University of Nevada, Reno meet here in Brian Berghart's dining room to crunch data drawn from police reports from around the country. Berghart is the founder of FatalEncounters.org, and he's using old-school journalism to figure out how many people are killed by police each year in this country. That's because there's no government agency that comprehensively tracks the number of people who die in police custody.
Okay, so these are all the records that came from our public records requests in Texas.
Okay. The federal government tracks anything that matters. Anything. The number of shoes sold, rainfall in Death Valley. The fact that they weren't collecting this information suggests that it just didn't matter.
Zeke Edwards of the American Civil Liberties Union also thinks this lack of data about police killings is unsettling.
We need this data not only to know what the police are doing today and this year, but what did they do last year? And what did they do the year before? And what are the trends? Are they shooting more people? Are they disproportionately African American? Are those rates growing?
It wasn't supposed to be like this. Back in 2000, Congress passed the Death in Custody Reporting Act, which required states to report any person who dies while in police custody. But the law, which expired in 2006, had no teeth, and 16 states and the District of Columbia opted not to fully participate.
Our knowledge on use of force, officer-involved shootings, things like that, it's very patchy, and it's dependent on departments collecting that data and sharing those data, and they don't do that necessarily reliably.
The Department of Justice says it's only been able to identify about half of all arrest-related police homicides. In other words, the DOJ believes the true number of people killed by police may be as high as 928. But Brian Berghart's Fatal Encounters organization, which uses police reports, media accounts, and other research methods, has in fact positively identified 1,192 lives lost at the hands of police in 2014, 28% higher than the official estimates.
I mean, in a perfect world, police departments would be reporting this and would be very transparent about it. I don't have faith that that will happen.
Sam Sinyangwe is a 25-year-old Stanford University graduate who's created a website called Mapping Police Violence. He's analyzed the data from the Fatal Encounters website and other citizen activist websites like Killed by Police. Drawing from his background in statistical analysis, Sinyangwe's broken down their data by race, gender, age, and location, and has come up with some eye-opening conclusions.
We've learned that what the protesters are saying is absolutely correct and is validated by the data. Black folks are 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white folks in this country. We also know that black folks are more likely to be killed if they're unarmed compared to white folks. In fact, more black people who are unarmed were killed by police than white people who are unarmed, despite the fact that white people are 5 times greater in terms of population in this country. Zip code, county.
His analysis also uncovers other disturbing trends. He found that your odds of being killed by police depend on where you live. If you're black and live in St. Louis, you are 5 times more likely to be killed by police than if you live in New York City. A black person is 10 times more likely to be killed by police in Oklahoma than in Virginia. And despite Georgia having nearly twice as many African Americans as Florida, an African American is less likely to be killed by police in Georgia.
Those in favor say aye.
A new Death in Custody Reporting Act was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Obama in 2014, but many experts say it's not enough.
The reason it's insufficient is that it's still voluntary. In other words, we're relying on the goodwill of police departments to be as transparent and accountable as possible, which history has shown doesn't seem to come naturally.
Failure to report the death of a prisoner in police custody.
Really?
For now, Brian Berghart plans to keep his dining room table stacked with boxes of police reports.
Most people think human life matters more than just about anything you could be concerned with. And for our government not to care enough to track who it's killing and why it's killing them is incomprehensible.